The Enlightenment was an intellectual movement launched in Europe in the 18th century, which aimed to overcome obscurantism and promote knowledge, in opposing superstition, intolerance and abuse of church and state. Philosophers and intellectuals of science by encouraging intellectual exchange. The term Enlightenment was established by custom to bring together the diverse manifestations of this set of objects into a single word, to represent this current of thought or sensitivity and historical actors. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 may be the first step, but in French historiography, the pivotal period that corresponds to the end of the reign of Louis XIV 1643 to 1715 is like its gestation. From its beginning, the universal scope of the French Revolution's ideas was proclaimed by its supporters, and the extent of its consequences highlighted by its critics. The wars of the French Revolution, which affected a large part of continental Europe, led to the creation of sister republics and the transformation of borders and states of Europe, contributing to the spread of revolutionary ideas. These conflicts have subsequently found a continuation in Napoleonic Wars, It is explicitly referred to the Supreme Being in the preamble of the Declaration of Human Rights, and the Citizen of 1789, which is a pillar of the French legal, political and social system. National Assembly recognizes and declares, in the presence and under the auspices of the Supreme Being, the following rights of man and citizen. Philosophically, the cult of reason and that of the Supreme Being correspond to a natural religion, a concept born in the Age of Enlightenment. The cult of reason proceeds of atheism and naturalism of Denis Diderot, which inspired Jacques Séguier. The cult of the Supreme Being proceeds from the deism of Voltaire and Rousseau, which inspired Robespierre. According to Father of the House, quoted by Father Mallet, in the article deists there are two kinds of deists. Those of Unitarian origin, it seems that Isaac Newton is the cause. But it is not mentioned those in the tradition of Malebranche and Leibniz. We can compare these cults to radical Jacobinism, especially in the case of the cult of the Supreme Being. Hannah Arendt found that it's a search for an absolute legitimizing the law. That she called the great legislator universal. Indeed, following the failure of the establishment of a constitution playing the same role as the U.S. Constitution, we had to find an absolute being that is the transcendent sanction in the political field. So this is a legacy of French absolutism. The first generation of socialists, later called utopian socialists, or Saint-Simonian, is represented primarily by Saint Simon, died 1825, Charles Fourier, and A. Vian Cabot, belonging to an enlightened bourgeoisie. However, their influence on the working classes is weak. The term socialism is derived from the word socialism created by the British Robert Owen, introduced in France in 1834 by the typographer Pierre Leroux. This term originally refers to a movement of thought and action in response to the working poverty, but also against the dissolution of social ties caused by the nascent capitalism. According to Pierre Leroux, socialism explicitly designates the revendication in principle, and taking sides, for the society, either the opposite of individualism. This first socialist movement is idealistic, community, rather pacifist and reformist. It is suspicious or even hostile to the ideals conveyed by the French Revolution. And it was only later with Auguste Blanqui that socialism approached it, targeting freedom, equality and fraternity as goals, and developing the ideology of progress. A phalanstery is an organic combination of elements, considered necessary for the harmonious life of a community called the phalanx. The concept, strongly support in intellectual circles in the 19th century, was developed by Charles Fourier and promoted by idealistic industrialists such as Jean-Baptiste and Rigaudin. This is a set of accommodations organized around the central covered courtyard, place of community life. Phalansteries have been the subject of many attempts to apply in France and the United States in the 19th century. As a pluralistic society, the phalanges which contribute to community life will be part of specific dynamics to that society. Politics was largely inspired by this way of organization, recognizing the components of the society as part of the social dynamics, whose specificities are to be respected in political decision-making. Feminism is the most visible of these trends. Egalitarian policy pushes to the extreme the principle of equality. The goal of socialism is the pursuit of progress, and the realization of the egalitarian aspiration, mainly consisting in legal equality, political equality and social equality, as inseparable and unenforceable. Shulamit Firestone, born in January 7, 1945, dead in August 28, 2012, also called Shuli, or Shulama, was a Canadian-born feminist. She was a central figure in the early development of radical feminism, having been a founding member of the New York Radical Women, Red Stockings, and New York Radical Feminists. In 1970, she authored The Dialectic of Sex, A Case for Feminist Revolution, an important and widely influential feminist text. Shulamit Firestone wrote in The Dialectic of Sex, there was in her dream feminist current the United States in 1970. First conservative feminists or liberal feminist reformers of NOW, the National Organization of Women, founded by Betty Friedan in 1966. Then the politicos. It was that women in the leftist groups called movements in the U.S. at the time. And finally, radical feminists and their camp. In 1973, in Quebec, we also identified 3 trends in the Quebec feminism, not counting one's own the reform feminism. Cultural feminism, one that attacked the cultural aspects of oppression. And, thirdly, opportunistic or individualist feminism, the women who struggle alone for a career in the world of men. Women's Center, for its part, is called an autonomous revolutionary feminism. But the fight was to be closely linked to that of workers. So if we exclude opportunistic or individualist feminism, it is recognized in this classification, 3 trends identified by Firestone: reformist or liberal, radical or cultural, political or revolutionary feminism. Betty Friedan, born in February 4, 1921, dead February 4, 2006, was an American writer, activist, and feminist. A leading figure in the women's movement in the United States. Her 1963 book The Feminine Mystic, often credited with sparking the second wave of American feminism in the 20th century. In 1966, Friedan founded and was elected the first president of a national organization for women, NOW, which aimed to bring women into the mainstream of American society in fully equal partnership with men. After the political change experienced by the world at the beginning of the 21st century, a lot of movement appeared claiming to pretend a better visibility in the political landscape. These new egalitarian ideas appeared in consequence to the collapse of the Soviet Union, the exodus of population from Eastern Europe giving new opportunities for reinterpretation of the functioning of Western democracy, and the emergence of generations of immigrants, youth with specific needs of representativity, caused the jostling of the political balance of Western democratic states. Without having followed the historical development of ideas of enlightenment, their appearance will encroach on the tenet of democracy classics, by introducing the same belligerent and secular ideas than before the revolution. However, classical progressists and egalitarian currents were in non-consistency towards this new popular components, claiming that it is bourgeois ideology, as was saying Simon. These new egalitarian protest movement will benefit from regional structures and agencies to sneak into the ranks of political action by sacrificing the foundation of the republic in favor of a new argument, mixing the specificity, origins and cultures of popular audition in a populist and pugilist political discourse. This new balance of power generated a political rebellion movement against the traditional egalitarian ideas, claiming better adaptability of the policy to people claims